Good
This is a
morning.
nice view, isn't it? So Betsy's our OG of the original of the Roundup.
Okay.
Our OG. And then Denise is the newest member. So I like how you guys are stacked right there, the
Yeah.
newest member. And then I am Greg and Vicki today. So Andy,
A
and
combo.
as I promised everybody, there will be no music, no singing, and no math from me. So Greg, come back soon. Greg had to play at a funeral today, so he's there. And Denise, why is David Randall here?
Well,
That's a
funny
good
you should
question.
ask, Sandy. This is our first edition of Behind the Branches. And David is here because he's going to be sharing with us about the Notables Project and some of the changes that have been going on with the Notables.
And I know
Hey,
that this
David.
is always a popular conversation because I'm constantly DMing David saying, can I do this? What about this? What about that? So that'll be really cool to break it down into any answers from your questions that you might have. So let's go ahead and welcome a few people. So I see we have our Australians and New Zealand's here. So I want to say hi to Mel. And then we also have Anne is here as well. You guys were chatting her. And Amanda and Tia. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Thank you guys for showing up on the Roundup. We really appreciate you guys that are here live because you keep it fun for us with your comments and your questions and your answers. And for those of you that are watching after the fact, that's pretty cool of you to come in and watch after the fact. And we hope that we can share some tips along the way. It just, the Roundup truly is, Betsy, a Roundup of the week.
Yeah.
What happened this week on WikiTree, right?
What's going on? Yeah.
And there's Dee. Hi, Augusta. That's where Dee and I are in the same state. I might be a little closer to you right now, Dee, than normal. Normally, I'm a little bit further away. And Lisa, just so everybody knows, when you look at the social media page that has what's going on next week, Lisa puts that all together for us and helps us with all the links down below that we're going to talk about today. And Murray. Hi, Murray. How is it up in Canada, Murray? It's like going to be really, really hot here in Georgia. What about you, Betsy and Denise and David? What's the weather going to be like for you guys?
Super hot.
Super hot.
It's like you don't want to go outside. Kind of hot. Yeah.
Yeah, hot and dry.
Hot and dry. What about you, Denise?
It's going to be hot. It's sunny right now, very bright and sunny. And it's supposed to get up into the 90s today.
Yes, 90s is going to be a theme here, I think, this week in the States. And then we have Susie. I was trying to do Susie and Judy at the same time. Sorry, ladies. Susie and Judy. Welcome, welcome. Do we have anybody new? Anybody who has never seen the Roundup before? You might be there, but not chatting. We want to welcome you as well. Feel free to say hi to us. If you have any questions throughout, let us know. And we'll have Lynn. Hey, Mo. And I bet you it's really hot and dry also where Mo is, because that's in California. And Hillary from Wales. Thank you guys for joining us. I think I got we've got Rick, and we also have Irish John that's here today.
Canada and Ireland.
Just about everybody. You know who I don't see in here yet is Chris. There we go. I got Chris.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Okay, so let's talk about this new branch. Between the branches. Did I get it right, Denise?
Behind the branches. Behind the branches. This is basically to talk about everything that's going on behind what you normally see in WikiTree. Again, it's focused on the projects. We've got over 100 projects within WikiTree, and they break down into different categories like geographic, topical projects. So we've got a lot of different things to cover, and it should be able to last us the rest of the year, if nothing else, every Saturday till the end of the year. But to start us off is someone who is an expert in this area, David Randall, who actually manages or participates on a number of projects. But today we're going to focus on the Notables Project, which is probably one of the most popular projects within WikiTree. Yay, Notables, Judy says. Yeah. So with the Notables, he covers everything from politics to different sports to even the Disney classics. So David, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with these projects before you get into the details of the Notables.
Okay. Well, I've been with WikiTree probably about 5 years. I'm one of those who joined WikiTree and quickly became overwhelmed and left. And some point later, I was invited by a person over at Ancestry to come add some stuff to WikiTree, and I thought, oh, this looks cool. I had no idea I already had an account with my family on it. It's been so long since I posted. But the second time around, I had some help, and it suddenly all made sense, and I've been here ever since. I was also really impressed when I first came on that I didn't have to worry about making mistakes. And I'm one who just jumped right in and started adding and got interested in. I didn't know about projects in the beginning, but I knew about free space pages. So I created the classic Disney project as a free space page just for my own fun. And it started out just because I have some intrigue with the early performance and kind of the behind the scenes stuff. And I started out with just one film. That's all it was supposed to be. I wanted to see what happened to the actors that performed the Seven Dwarfs in the original Disney. And so I created 7 films and did some research. And somewhere along the line, somebody saw what I was doing and made it public. Went out on G2G, and next thing I knew, I was in the newsletter. And before I knew it, I was managing a project. And I was invited to join the Notables project. I had no idea what a project was. I was just doing this as a free space page. But the rest is kind of history. And I've been projects is mini projects, let's say, is my thing. I don't belong to a whole lot of the larger projects. I belong to a couple. But I love doing all of the little mini pop-ups and mostly working with other projects on their notables. That's my thing.
Awesome. So now let's dig into the notables. I understand there have been some changes recently. This started out with Scott Fulkerson, and now you're a heavy hitter on the project team as well. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and we don't like to call them changes because people don't like changes, so we call them improvements.
Okay.
There have been some improvements on the project lately, and we're always improving. That's part of our thing. We meet regularly as a team, and periodically review what's working and what's not working, and more than anything, what we can do to continue to generate interest in the project, to get people involved. I like to think of Notables as a beginner project for people. We're not quite as intense in our requirements as some of the projects are. It's a lot more focused on, I don't want to say the others aren't focused on fun, but that's what we're all about. Baseball profiles and movie star profiles and, all those kinds of things, whatever you're interested in. And a lot of people work independently, and they work on whatever types of profiles, notable profiles they want. But we're trying to come up with some more ways to bring people in as a group and get people working on projects together, mini projects. And so that's one again, not a change as much as an improvement, that we're looking at new ways to bring people in. And
hey, David, do you find that if a Notables sticker is on a profile that people are nervous to work on it. Like it's almost like a do not touch.
Yeah, and I would say not just a notable sticker, but any project sticker. Sometimes people get a little leery. Oh, this is managed by the Notables Project. I better stay away, or I shouldn't touch this one. And a couple of years back now, it's probably been about 2 years, we actually took our name off of most notable profiles, just for that reason, that we didn't want people to think they couldn't work on them because we had our tag on it. Now, it's probably a good place right from the beginning to discuss the distinction between our living notables and our other notables. And we have, just as of this month, split the Notables Project into two formal accounts. So we now have a Notables Project and we have a Living Notables Project. The Living Notables Project is exactly what it sounds like. It's where we manage all the living notables. The Notables Project is where we manage everything else, including all of the deceased notables, but also all of our projects, our mini projects, our sub projects. That's all done under our Notables Project, and that's where the membership is going to be, because those are the profiles that people can work on. The living notables, as most people know, I'm looking down the list of people in the chat room, and almost every name on here is active some way or another in the Notables Project. So those viewers know the rules, but not everybody does. We have some real strict guidelines on who can access living notables, and that's for privacy reasons. So we have currently 10. The Notables Project manages, well, it's actually almost 11,000 profiles that we're not able to open up to public for editing.
Wow.
So it's a lot.
Yeah.
6,000 of those are viewable as living notables. About 4,000 of them are blocked completely for privacy reasons. We can't open them. And those are because either somebody created a notable that turned out to not meet WikiTree's criteria for notable. They're living, but they're not actually notable by again, WikiTree's definition. Or they're family members who are living and are not notable. And again, there's about 4,000 of those.
Wow.
Really discourage people from creating those profiles because nobody's ever going to see them. So if we need them to make a connection, we can do that. But otherwise, we prefer, like I said, we've already got 4,000 of them. We don't need a whole bunch more. The other thing is that we're not able to allow members to manage those profiles. So if we find a profile that fits into that category, we will need to take that over. So you will not be able to manage unless you're a family member. That's if you happen to have a notable who is a family member, there's different rules for that. But the rule is the same for notables as it is for non-notables. You're not supposed to make profiles for living people that you don't know, or that are that you don't have their permission. So unless that notable has given you permission, you're not supposed to be making those profiles. So that's why we've split that off into its own category, so that we can keep a better track on that. And then all the profiles that are in the Notables Project, everybody's free to work on, as they choose. So it just kind of gives us probably not a lot of distinction to the general membership for us trying to manage the profiles. It makes it a lot easier to have them separated into two different groups.
David, you've actually expanded this geographically as well, right? So you're doing notables throughout the world, not just in the United States.
Yeah, we've always, notables has no geographic or time boundaries. So we have notables that go back to pre-1500, and we've got notables from every continent on the planet. We've really tried to encourage people to do notables, create profiles for notables, and connect their families, if possible, from places that are maybe more obscure. A lot of our larger projects manage their own notables teams. So we've got people managing Canadian and British and Australian notables. But the Asian notables, the African notables, South American notables, we don't have a lot of people working on those. So we do encourage the creation of those profiles if people are so inclined. But yeah, we have no limitation on time or location.
Yeah, I think I saw on Roots Tech back in 24 where Scott found a notable that was going back, way back.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't recall who it was or what the time frame was, but he went back to like the first century.
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
He figured out the oldest notable profile on WikiTree, and it went way back.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember who it was, but
yeah. Now we also request that if you're going to create a profile, that you do so with genealogical intention. So we have people who often will create a profile and then walk away, and now it's sitting out there floating around all by itself, and nobody knows about it. We know you can't guarantee you're going to make a connection, but if you're going to create the profile, if you could do your best to add the parents and the siblings and the spouses, and ideally get it connected if you can. Again, we have a whole lot of notables that are just kind of floating out there on their own. But the other big piece that, again, is not so much a change, but a shift in our focus this year is we're really focusing on profile development. We have a lot of people who love to connect profiles. We have no shortage of those, and that's great. We want them to continue. But we have a real hard time getting people to actually build up the profiles themselves, writing the biographies, finding images, getting us sources beyond Wikipedia. There's a whole lot that goes into creating a great profile, and we really would like to encourage people to do that. We are offering periodic trainings on how to write biographies. There's other projects that have their trails that are great, that apply definitely to our notables. There's lots of places to go for help. You can put a notice on G2G that I have created this profile, but I need somebody to help me with the bio, or finding additional sources, or I can't find the parents to this person. Once in a while, we'll do that with some of our ethnic groups. We'll say, hey, we've got these 5 Jewish notables, and we'd like somebody with Jewish experience to come help us because we're stuck, or African American notables, or whatever the classification may be. But that's really our emphasis. So we're going to have more and more projects. In fact, we just posted this month for a recently deceased notables mini group. And what we want to do is, when somebody passes away and we open up their profile and we move them from living notables to either to notables or to just release them out to the public. Before we do that, we want to get their profile in order. We have, as I mentioned, 10,000, no, almost 11,000 living notables. So we can't get them all up to standard as we'd like, but we can hopefully, as we're releasing them, get them in order before we do. And when I say get them in order, I'm not talking about perfection. I'm just talking about getting a basic bio on there, maybe finding a photograph, checking for some of the low-hanging sources that are out there, get their census records up, or their World War II draft card, whatever it is that's out there, just to get something, so that when somebody stumbles across that profile down the road, it's not just a blank slate. Notables are very popular for new people coming in. We use them for marketing, and if we're going to draw people in and say, hey, come look at our notable projects, it'd be nice if we actually had something there for them to see when they got there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now we've got, I mean, millions of members. We've got over a million members.
Mhm.
So I'm sure you can always use more volunteers. How can they join the Notables Project? What do they need
Well,
to do?
to join, all you need to do, we have a monthly G2G post. All you have to do is ask. We don't have any criteria for who gets accepted or who doesn't. If you want to be part of the project, sign up. Now the second question then is, what do they do once they are a member? And that's really up to them as to what their interests are. As you mentioned in the beginning, we cover politics, we cover music, we cover actors and actresses. We've got sports figures, astronauts, scientists, and even people that don't fit into a category that just happen to have some sort of incident in their life that created some fame for them. And same with time period. Somebody mentioned the other day on one of my posts, they said, "Oh, I'm not interested in notables. I like to work with historical figures." Oh, there's how many notable historical figures are there? We've got tons of those available. Yeah. So if you only like doing pre-1500 profiles, there's all kinds of pre-1500 people out there that could use some work. So it's really up to your interest, and you let us know what you'd like. If you've got some little niche that you're particularly interested in, we can even help you set up a small group, a little mini project of your own. As I said in the beginning, I started with the Disney project, and that was just my own little thing, but it caught on, and we had we're a little bit dormant now because it's been 4 or 5 years since we started it, and we've accomplished most of our key tasks, but there's still people periodically that'll find it and make a contribution here and there.
Let me interject real quick, because I'm going to brag on you a little bit too, because this is a good time. When David and I were doing bingo, and for those of you that watched, we would provide a really awesome space page with notables based on a topic, and David created those. David went and hunted those. We would brainstorm on a topic, so we came up with a year's worth of topics. And he would brainstorm, go into WikiTree, and if they were not there, he would create a basic notable profile for them in hopes that some of you guys watching bingo would increase them. And when you mentioned, a niche project and stuff, David came up with a really awesome idea one time, the circus.
That was a popular one.
No clue. I thought, okay, it's fun, but I didn't think it would take off globally. And we needed help from the Nordic project. And they created a little mini project based off helping us on just the one profile that we had from bingo. So David creates all those wonderful space pages. And like you just mentioned, if you need help creating a little mini project.
Yeah, and we had some pretty obscure topics. We had
we really did. They were fun.
Brewers, Mr. Anheuser and Mr. Bush, and we had people that were department stores named for them, or grocery stores. We did.
Well, David came up with another really interesting. This is all notables. The people whose names was used for something. So, like, I can remember shrapnel. I didn't know. I thought that was just something, but it was an actual person's name. So
or Mr. I don't know first names, but Mr. Sax that invented the saxophone.
I was thinking Saks Fifth Avenue, but okay.
That would be
the department stores.
Adolf Sachs.
Adolf Sachs. Okay.
Yeah. In the early 1840s.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you. I don't want to take up too much time. I want to allow time for some of the other things that are going on for the Saturday Roundup. I'm sure you could go on and on and on about the Notables Project, as well as some of the other things you've worked on. And I just want to remind the audience, and for those people that watch this later, that you can always join the Notables Project just as a way to get your feet wet and get familiar with WikiTree, and also to spread that love and share that information about lives that are special in various communities around the world. So thank you, David, for all your work and the work of your team. We can talk to you at another time about project leadership because that seems to be a tough topic too. But would love to have you back to talk about some of the other projects that you're involved with.
Be happy to come back anytime.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Yes, loved. And by the way, I put in the chat a link both to the Notables project page and to that G2G join post that David mentioned. So
Thank you, Betsy.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So our theme this week is left-handers. And we got, well, at least as of 2 hours ago, we had received 192 responses
Wow.
on the G2G post. And it really was interesting. I did not realize that another name, a nickname for a left-hander is a southpaw.
Yes.
Throughout, people were saying, oh, so-and-so, my grandma was a southpaw. I don't know the origins of that, but that was interesting. Tell us in the chat if you are left-handed. Are any of us? I'm not. Are any of them? No?
Yeah,
My
my sister's ambidextrous, but
Okay.
she started out left-handed, and then in daycare they said, we can't have that.
Oh,
And they forced her to start writing right-handed. So she can do both.
Yep. There were a lot of stories like that of just really cruel things that were done to children, wrapping their knuckles with rulers and tying their left hand behind their back, just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately, that is not done anymore. We had one person who he's a newt, Richard Dworkin, who shared I'm going to share my screen to show a couple of things here. Let's see, entire screen. So he showed us this. He shared this link here on how to tell the Edinburgh handedness inventory. I thought that was interesting. And yeah, and I had been keeping track, reading the responses of all the activities that people mentioned, had a handedness component. And then I went to this web page, and there's a list here, of all the things where let's see, make it a little bigger: writing, drawing, throwing, scissors, cutlery, working with tools, working with needles, yard work, dealing cards. A few of the others that came up within our conversation in the G2G thread were holding a hamburger, tying your shoelaces, playing the violin, which when the typical way is with the right hand operating the bow, but I guess there are left-handed violins.
Well, that feels so awkward, as a right-hander.
Right.
I'm still trying to figure out hold the hamburger with my left. All these things we don't think about.
Right. And it was just, I mentioned last week, I was teaching, baby flutes at the beginner camp 2 weeks ago. And I was reassuring them, some of them were worried, I'm left-handed. And I said, it doesn't matter, for playing the flute. But so there's a whole list of activities where this, becomes an issue. Well, it's just different. And if you have a child who has left-handed leanings, then you want to support them with that. There are fascinating number of left-handers. Jane Hale shared that this list of left-handers, and in addition to what Sandy's going to share for Profile of the Week, we have Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Forbes, Ratan Tata, and 8 presidents of the United States, which is very high. So there have been, we talked about punishment in schools and forcing children to be right-handed, and unfortunately there were some some superstitions and bad connotations surrounding left-handedness. And I didn't realize that someone even, I looked it up on Merriam-Webster, and it said that Eve was on Adam's left side in Genesis. And that was one of the things that, started making left-handedness be a bad thing. So I'm glad we don't have that belief.
You're right.
Yeah. So I'm just going to highlight a few things. We can't look at all 192, but
that's considered a lot, right? For answer a question of the week.
Yes, it is. I don't think I've seen that high a number of answers since I've been doing this segment.
Wow.
10 pages of answers. So
who would have known? Who would have guessed that? Okay, lefties unite.
Right. So Dave Draper said he is and was a journeyman sign painter, and his left-handedness came into play working on the left side of a high-rise billboard where the right-handed painters could not reach the left edge with comfort. I can see that.
Yeah.
When you're 60 feet in the air, wind blowing the paint out of your brush while the whole structure is rocking back and forth, being left-handed was a blessing. When lettering and pinstriping cars and trucks, those watching were blown away at my left-hand ability. And he also plays piano. Has very, as anyone who plays piano knows, the left hand often does, the chords, the harmony, and it's more fun if that harmony can kind of have a cool rhythm to go along. So he's able to do very complicated rhythms, and he said he can play music almost instantly, as my left hand can nail the chords the first time, and his right hand does the melody. And then when the family goes out to eat, and this is the theme that came up a number of times, the seat arrangement, because of bumping elbows, we arrange ourselves strategically. So thanks, David. Then we had Peter Boyle, who said that this was a sort of mixture of his own memories and details filled in by his mother. Later, he grew up on a family farm in Railton, Ontario, Canada, and we had a farmhand named Frank who was not very proficient at reading and writing. However, he could draw beautiful pictures with a pencil. Peter and his twin would sit at the table in the farmhouse kitchen when they were about 3 and 4, and Frank would help our hands draw pictures on paper. His brother sat on the left side, and I sat on the right side of Frank, and therefore I used my left hand as it was closer to Frank. From that early experience, I always used my left hand to write. Then the nuns in the rural school tried to get him to switch hands, but that never happened. So when he does certain tests like throwing, golfing, playing a guitar, he's right-handed, but he does remember that very formative experience. I thought that was, I can just see them sitting at the table. Yeah, let's see.
The nuns with the rulers.
Yes, the rulers. I thought this was I could see this happening. My baby brother Tim was a southpaw. That's the hand he used to steal my dessert when Mom wasn't looking.
I love it. Now that's the memory. Write that on the profile. That's
absolutely for sure. Yeah, and I'm just tossing this in. We'll be moving on to profiles, the featured profiles, and Ringo Starr is amongst those. But Scott Bingham pointed out that Paul McCartney was also a lefty, and let's see. So let's see. Ringo is one of the true lefties who was forced to write with his left hand by his very superstitious grandmother. And it also affected his drumming style since he learned to play on a right-hand drum kit. not realizing there was a difference until later, until it was too late to change. As a result, most of Ringo's fills are played backwards from how others might play.
Oh,
And yeah, so as a musician, I find that really fascinating.
me too.
Makes sense. So, thank you to everybody who responded to that. It made for a really fun reading this morning. So
that was interesting. Also, to hear the personal stories and then sharing, especially since David's here, the notables. Some people mentioned the notables, so it's a good mix of what's going on. So I guess let's talk about some of the notables that are left-handed. And I too did just a little bit of research. Now, again, this is trivia, so we're going to go with the assumption that most of it is true. I don't know how they judge this, though, but it's rumored that over 10% of the world's population is left-handed. Now, my question still is, how do you know? Where is this number coming from?
Right. And Sandy, can I just squeeze one more thing in? I thought Roz Hayward made a comment about how do we know? It's not something that is notated on a vital record. And so therefore it's very anecdotal. Sure enough, everybody who responded in the post, it was someone that they or their parents had known.
And so I'm going to transfer this, what Betsy said and then Roz mentioned, into this would be great to mention in a profile of WikiTree because I don't know. I don't know if it's hereditary or not. I don't know how it happens. I haven't researched it. So, but it would be cool as a descendant to say, oh, I didn't know my great-grandparent was left-handed the same as me or something like that. So just little things like this that you learn through the roundup that you can maybe apply to your own family tree would be cool. So, and supposedly there are more left-hander males than females.
I've heard that. Yeah.
So that one's kind of interesting. And then supposedly, and this is interesting because we're going in the featured of the week, and I've seen some of you mention it. Left-handers do much better at sports than right-handers. Now, I don't know. I can tell you, and somebody mentioned golf, and my husband too, but are both big golfers, and I know my son has to putt. He's right-handed, but he has to putt differently to do better putts, and I don't understand. I don't understand golf. I just drive the cart. But it's interesting how some people that are right-handed will switch over sometimes from left-handed, especially considered historically, left-handers were forced to go right-handed.
Yeah, I am a left-handed putter. I play putt-putt all the time. I don't golf, but I play putt-putt. And my husband, when we first met and dated, he said, why are you doing that left-handed? I said, am I? I didn't realize it,
A lot do, and I don't understand it, but it works for him, and he's happy with his score. So that works out. So let me go ahead and bring my screen up as well. And while I'm bringing my screen up, if everybody in chat just wants to tell me, who are you closest to? So I've got really far this week. I've got 4 of them that I'm like 17 away from, and I'm going to show my the featured guest on my screen from where I'm closest to where I'm furthest from. So you guys feel free to tell us who you are closest from. That's that's a good thing. The left-handed sticker. That would be say I'm left-handed and then have a little
right. Okay. I love that.
So let me go ahead and present my screen real quick. There we go. So I've got 3 or 4 that I am equal with, 17 degrees. So I'm kind of far from everybody. But the first one we're going to talk about is James Garfield, who is the 20th U.S. president. He is ambidextrous, but he did use his left hand a lot throughout. And let me just move my screen over just a little bit here so it makes more sense. And so he was really interesting, though. I did some research. And, you guys know I do things a little bit different than Greg. Greg, please forgive me. I do a little trivia instead. So he was able to write Greek with one hand and Latin with the other hand at the same time.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
That's so cool.
My brain couldn't do that at the same time, let alone my hands. So no, that's just crazy. But he was only served 200 days, so he didn't serve the full term or as often, but he is considered a left-hander. The President's Project, since we're talking about projects, manages this wonderful profile. And it's really great because I love the block quotes that we have in it as well. So so I could see, with the stickers, there could be a little left-hander sticker maybe. Since so many people answered the question of the week, we have a lot of lefties. But he was also a Freemason, and there is a Freemasonry project on WikiTree as well. Okay, so I'm going to go over to Charles Drizel. We all know him as Lefty Drizel. And we're talking about sports as well. He was a legendary basketball coach. He was named Lefty because of his left-handedness, which is interesting. And you guys are going to laugh at this one. He is known for creating a tradition where the teams held their first practice of the season at midnight. And the tradition had a very unique name that we on WikiTree know well, and I'm glad David's here. It's called Midnight Madness.
That's awesome.
So Lefty here created that. An amazing coach. And this is where David mentioned that we have lots of people that like increasing the CC7 as well. So this gentleman could have a little bit of increase in CC7. A really great profile. But he's extremely successful college coach. If you're into sports, you know the name Lefty Drizel. So that will bring us to Lefty. I'm still 17 degrees for most of these people. And I do believe that Miss Augusta D in the audience mentioned Jimi Hendrix is a lefty as well. I think it was D. And he played a right-handed guitar upside down. So Betsy, I don't even know how to even do that. Think about that. But I guess he wanted to play, and he was left-handed, and he improvised.
I mean, I think so much of the technical part of playing an instrument is muscle memory. And so as long as his brain and his muscles remembered that the strings were in that upside down order, it wouldn't matter.
That's brilliant.
And if you never learned the correct way, not the correct way, but the right-handed way, that's
amazing. And the whole reason why he did that is because he was left-handed. So a really great profile managed by the U.S. Black Heritage Project. I love these pictures. They're identical smiles. They're just the two pictures are just fantastic. The same glimmer in the eye, the same smile. That just I don't know. He's amazing guitarist. And I did not know that he died in London. That was news to me. I remember remember my brother being so upset when he passed away because my brother is a guitarist, but I did not know it was in London. So that was interesting. Okay.
Going back to that baby picture, it always fascinates me. If I look at pictures of my grandparents when they were toddlers, they still look like my grandparents.
Yes. I know, right?
Yeah.
I saw somebody posted a picture on social media of their grandparents, I guess maybe dating, and they were at a movie or something like that, and they were kissing or something, and I thought, okay, that's kind of cute. That might be them, the poster, or the parents, or something like that. When they said their grandparents, and the quote was, "Being as much in love today as your grandparents were," and I was like, "Oh, my grandparents kissed." It's like there's a picture to prove it. It's like, that's really kind of freaked me out there. Okay, so this gentleman, otherwise known as Mr. Fred Astaire, well, I mean, you can't watch a movie of his and not come out of it happy. But he's one of the world's greatest dancers. He was left-handed, and he had a reputation for being wanted perfection and perfectionism, and he demanded dozens and dozens of takes for his routines. So now I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about how seamless his dancing seemed, and now I'm a little exhausted thinking how many takes he must have had to
True.
get. I mean, his legs just they almost rubber bands. They were just so movable in ways that I could never do. So pretty fascinating. But he is a famous left-hander, and just a little bit of a quote that she said that Ginger Rogers said that everything he did was backwards, and it's probably because his left hand, and he had to do things different than the other actors that he was with. And so now I got to go watch a couple movies to see those, how they sit at the table or how they dance, compared to him being left-handed. And this is a good example that David mentioned of there's not a project managing this, but it is a notable. And I think, Betsy, I think you started. This might be a good time to real quick to just interact. Have you ever had a living notable say they're into genealogy and asked to take over their profile? So, David, how many living notables, you don't have to name names, are PM of their own profile?
I couldn't give you a number, and it's very few, but they are there. They're typically not the superstars, but maybe an author or somebody that played on a sports team that might be a name that you don't recognize necessarily. But we do have a few. We get more frequently than that. We get close relatives, so a sibling or maybe even a cousin. Now, what's funny is, for example, when the day Tina Turner died, we got 15 requests from cousins wanting to adopt her profile.
Wow.
I really don't think her cousins were focusing on WikiTree the day that she passed away. So we asked for some verification, and we didn't get any. So the cousins will come out of the woodwork when there's a recent passing of a big name. But and then you'll get people, it's just kind of cute that people that particularly new to genealogy, and they'll say, I just found out I'm the 15th cousin 3 times removed. Can I be part of that profile? And we require something a little bit closer than 15th cousins. But yeah, we do have a couple celebrities. I'm not going to name names, but we've got a couple big names.
So see, that's a little trivia. So if you guys have a particular favorite author or actor or YouTuber or something like that, see if they're on WikiTree. You never know. I do know one singer supposedly manages her profile, and that's all I'll say. Okay, moving right on to one of my favorites. Prince William. I don't know if we need to know too much about him. He's already been splashed on the news and seems to be splashed on the news in the gossip magazines more and more these days. But he's a famous left-hander, and if you notice, he will sign, and sometimes he signs more. Sometimes left-handers sign with a grasp like this, as opposed to right-handers hold it like that. So next time you see a clip of him or something like that signing a guest book or something like that, notice how he signs. Notice how he holds the pen in his hand. And of course, he is slated to be the next king of England, and Princess Di and King Charles. Almost said Prince Charles, King Charles' son. And I just thought it was interesting because I when somebody said, watch how he signs, it is interesting how he does it.
Yeah, he's my closest connection. 19 degrees. 19 degrees.
I think he's like, yeah. he's further away from me. I think he's 23 from me.
Same for me, 23. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, do we have any Canadians in the house? That would be.
I think we have Rick and Murray.
Murray.
And Lisa.
And
Lisa's there. Yeah.
So, Glenn Gould and a Canadian pianist, renowned for Bach, I adore Bach. If you guys are ever watching Discord and see my Spotify, almost always there's Bach on. But his quirky habits included humming along while playing and wearing heavy coats indoors at all times, and sitting on a low battered chair his father bought. So, like, you think about a little smaller child chair, all while being a left-hander. So I can tell you that I don't know as much, and this is where Greg's input would be fantastic here, but I do know Bach is not the easiest to play. That I do know, and I cannot imagine being a left-hander and then trying to play. Because one of the things that I noticed with Betsy's list is, like, and some of you mentioned that you knit or crochet. Sometimes if you're lucky, you'll get instructions for left-handers. But I don't see that a lot for music. Is there, Betsy, for like piano music, or is it you play?
Well, I, at least speaking for the flute, no. Yeah. But like I said, it really doesn't matter on the flute. I think it's equally challenging for both hands. I don't know. Not to my knowledge about piano instruction.
I just wonder, and it's just interesting how somebody, you're born with left hand, and you just go on with life, like Jimi Hendrix. I want to play this guitar. Let's figure it out. And that's kind of where he was. But he was also a broadcaster, writer, composer, conductor, and managed by the wonderful Canada Project. And I'm not sure what this is. I think this is a Canadian, and you guys from Canada will have to let me know. National Historic Significance. I believe that's a Canadian title.
Sandy, what did you? Was there an explanation of his surname? I mean, I think of him as Glenn Gould, but
that's what I do too.
Yeah, but why does it have last name as at birth as Gold? Was there an explanation?
I'm thinking it's a accent, a way it was ended up pronounced, maybe.
Okay, interesting.
Or documented, maybe whoever completed the birth documents didn't spell it correctly.
Could, yeah.
And I do like how they did mention his left hand, like he struggled with physical issues in his hands throughout his career and remained in contact with doctors, but none of that takes away from the fact that his left hand was surely a formidable force on its own. So let's see. Read the first paragraph. Lisa said read the first paragraph. So his dad was Gold. Then they begin to spell their name, although they weren't Jewish. They begin to spell their name as Gold, because they were worried about anti-Semitism. Thanks, Lisa. And then Murray suggests the national historic significance is particular to Canada.
And Greg will be playing some Bach. Maybe he's playing it right now.
He probably is. That's amazing. Yeah. That is really amazing. It's not easy to play.
No. The flute repertoire by Bach is gorgeous. I adore it. But the fast movements take work.
Okay, and then another musician, Kurt Cobain. We know Nirvana, and he was their frontman. He was left-handed, and they rumor has it that he often struggled finding left-handed guitars. Again, so forcing him to customize right-handed ones. So we have Jimi Hendrix, who just flipped it, and then we have Kurt Cobain, who said, I'm going to buy this right-handed one, but I'm going to modify it. I don't know how he modified it, and I'm really curious. So that's something I'm going to look at after the stream. But, he drew. He was somebody who liked to draw and write his music, and he did it all left-handed. And his journals show sprawling left-handed scrawl. So,
I was going to say, you were asking about how to tell if your ancestor was left-handed. I'm not an expert on this, but I know that there are ways to tell from handwriting.
oh, yeah.
That might be
I
someone
love
with that expertise could tell.
Yeah.
This is another profile that is not managed particularly by a project, but is done so well. I like it when people include their signature. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just a real big fan of signature. So since we're talking about left-handed, it seems to me that the signature is kind of leaning, this way. And I know as a right-handed, I kind of lean my signature to the right. On the StreamYard, I'm doing this backwards, but on the if I'm writing right-handed, I tend to lean towards the right. And this feels like it's kind of leaning towards the left. So an interesting note that he's left-handed and see his signature is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and some left-handers used to position their paper differently too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
To do their signatures. So for right-handers, we turn our paper left to right, and for left-handers, they turn their papers right to write their signatures.
I'm really sensing a theme here. We mentioned sports, but artists. This is heavy artists that. So Keith or Sutherland, and this would be, David, a living notable. Okay. So this is a good example of what we were talking about. So
on a living notable, you can see everything. You just can't edit without asking permission of the project manager. And here you've got two. You've got Canada and or notables. You could ask if you wanted to make additions.
So he's left-handed. His father, Donald, was right-handed. And this, I think also for living notables, you have to be very, very careful what you write. So this might be a little shorter biography than what you're used to seeing, but because he's living, you have to be careful. You can't put a whole bunch of family members' names in, right, David, that are still living?
Yeah, you can't put any living family members by name. So you can say he's married and has 2 kids, but you can't say, you can't identify him by name. You can't put anything controversial. So if somebody's got, drug usage or criminal behavior they've engaged in or allegedly, you have to leave all that stuff out. Anything that might cause the ire of the celebrity. And you asked if we have celebrities managing their own profiles. We have had celebrities contact us and tell us to take stuff down. More often than not, it's just about copyright issues, like pictures and things. But we've had some people that were not happy with what WikiTree had written about them.
And it could be even, I think it could be even something basic. This is real basic that you can find almost anywhere, right? So it might not always be contentious. They just might not want to be on.
Right, and particularly what we call minor notable, somebody that isn't in the public spotlight so much. May not want all their stuff put out there.
Okay, and then moving on, this is a good time that you're here. Denise, thank you for inviting David, because this was a perfect segue into some of these that are going in. Okay, so Joe Clark, he is Canada's 16th Prime Minister, also the youngest ever Prime Minister. I think he was 39. He's left-handed, and he's remembered for his intelligent and academic approach to politics, but he was tenure was 9 months. And I'm going to guess that this is managed by the Canada Project. And David, this brings up a good point. If someone is still, and this is a good point for everybody, whether they're notables or not, if somebody is still alive and there's a obituary out there that lists everybody, I don't list living people on profiles.
No, we're supposed to. We're supposed to retract any of that kind of information. So even if you're pulling it from other public sources, WikiTree has stricter policies than other sites do. So posting even a quote from an obituary, or you know, where it comes up a lot is the 1950 census, where one or two of the siblings maybe are still alive.
And if you post a whole
Yeah.
census table,
When you post that table, we need to black out the names of potentially living family members.
You're right. Sorry, Lisa. I was posting row one. I very but let me go back. So this is the Canadian Prime Minister. That's a good point. I didn't think about the census. And this is the Joe Clark, Prime Minister of Canada. My apologies. I got ahead of myself just a little bit. And then his political career was only about 9 months. This is also managed by the Canada Project. Okay, now let me go over Ringo Starr. Now, we talked about Ringo, but we talked about Paul as well. So I won't spend too much time on Ringo, because Betsy gave a really great information about it from the GGG post, that he was left-handed, played a right-handed drum kit, and that contributed to the drum fills. This is also a double managed because he's a living notable. And again, David, because he's living, I'm not a member of either of these projects either, so I cannot edit this profile. This would be something else for us.
Correct. Now, each project has their own rules on who they will allow to edit under their supervision. So Notables is pretty rigid about, because we have so many, with 10,000 profiles, we can't keep track of who's on and not. But if you're working directly with Canada Project, they may let you go on as a representative, and and make some edits. That's their call. But the decision to keep it private is a WikiTree rule. That doesn't matter what project you're with, it's going to be the same rule.
That's a really good point, because I know that we tend to think of it as a notables rule, but it's not. It's a WikiTree rule, and it kind of rolled out last year, I believe, wasn't it?
A little bit, a year or two. I don't think it was so much a new rule as much as tightening up on the old rules. That
makes sense. Okay, let me come back to Mark Renault, another Canadian. I love this because he was an astronaut. I love this picture. I love seeing the astronauts. I don't know why, but I guess I grew up around the time frame when NASA was really big. I wasn't old enough for the first moon landing, things like that, but it was just always fascinating to go to the space frontier to me. So I always love to see astronauts on WikiTree, and his left-handedness stood out during the spacecraft controls. Now this kind of freaked me out a little bit, because I can see that everybody's sitting there with the right hand, and then I think about what Betsy said about David Draper being left-handed and reaching the area to paint. Well, maybe being left-handed in his spacecraft controls helped him out a little bit, but all space equipment was designed for right-handers. So another great profile by the Canada Project. Okay, and I think we have one more, and then this is from France. I'm gonna probably say the name wrong, so Paul, as an American, I want to say Verlaine, but I probably am going to get that wrong. And he is also one of our featured left-handers this week, a French symbolist poet, famous for certain works on romance, and also an activist. His left-handedness was noted in accounts of his handwriting and painting like script. And what is really cool about this one, so this gentleman was born in 1844. And in the chat earlier, when we started talking about left-handers, when Betsy brought up information about left-handers, it was really fascinating that we had a lot of parents in here say that they wouldn't let their kids, their school teachers, change whether or not they're left or right-handed. So we're going back to 1844, and that was kind of controversial to be left-handed, and he kept it. This is another really good profile where you see the France project manages, but they also give the native language in there. So I like to see that.
Yeah.
So because to me, this is cousin bait. You know, we sometimes we focus on American centric, but this is cousin bait, and that will be the feature profiles of the week. Sorry, I got those two mixed up, guys, but that'll be the feature profiles of the week. And who knew that left-handers were going to be such a popular topic this week?
Yes.
Pretty cool. Okay,
and then there were so many notables that are lefties.
I know, and I wonder, you know, which one. So I'm going to say if you're a left-hander, there's probably some that need to be on WikiTree. And as David has encouraged us, feel free. Add them.
Yeah, you could create a left-handers mini project. See how many you can have.
Oh, there you go.
Absolutely. Get a sticker and start adding all these profiles.
That would be great. Okay, just one last thing to wind up everybody, to wind it down, I should say. The August 17th, what's coming up this week? So we talked about left-handers. So this week we're going to switch over to Jewish roots. And I highly encourage you guys to participate in the activities going on this week. As you know, Elaine is the PL, the project leader of Jewish Roots, and she also has this wonderful and significant project going on, initiative called the Auschwitz Project, trying to get everybody's name on WikiTree, a profile on WikiTree. And it is such a remarkable project, and everybody that has been contributing is doing such a great job on really kind of challenging sourcing. So hold that thought. So do you have Jewish roots will be the question of the week. The one name studies is Jacobus, and the connection checkers, which is going to be the 12 feature profiles, will be based off Jewish notables. The one place study is, I'm going to say this wrong for my German friends, I believe it's Cotton, but I could be wrong. The project of the week will be Jewish roots. And remember, I said hold that thought, the Discord party. So if you want to get involved in helping Elaine with the Jewish Roots Project, or maybe even helping with the initiative that she's got going on for Auschwitz, definitely come into the Jewish Roots Discord party. I can't tell you how much I learned from these Discord parties. They're really awesome. You can ask a lot of questions. You do not need to be a member of the project. It's members, non-members, any question you have, any topic you want to talk about that relates to the project, Elaine will be there to answer all your questions. And it's a good way to get to know a project. As Denise kind of said, as we're talking about behind the branches, this is kind of a companion to Denise showing and profiling the projects, and then the Discord party. So is Elaine going to be here maybe next Saturday?
I'm going to reach out to Elaine. Unfortunately, I did not know this was the topic for next week. I got to do better at finding out what's coming up in the future weeks so that I can schedule these better. But I will reach out to Elaine because she's also in the U.S. Black Heritage Project.
That's right.
She's a co-project leader with me, so I will reach out to her today to see if she's available for next week.
And usually the Discord parties last about 2 hours. You can be there right at the beginning and stay all the way through. If you need to pop out, you can pop out. You can show up late. Don't think that if you didn't show up at the beginning that you missed everything, because the good news is the Discord party is all mostly text-based. So you can go back and read it at any time because WikiTree keeps an archive of it. It doesn't go away. So pop in at any time, even if you only have a few minutes, and say hi. And if you want to get more involved or see what's going on, special initiatives or projects, Discord parties are the way to do it. And then the WikiTree Ambassador Short of the Week on YouTube will be somebody from Rush. So if you guys know Getty Lee from Rush, that will be upcoming. Meet our members, and then the roundup will be here. Don't forget photos, Betsy, the 12 photos is dressed for the time. So it means any photo based on a time period.
Right. Actually, Denise has taken that segment over.
Okay.
Yeah, but I love this one. I love themes where you can take it in multiple directions. And I think Dressed for the Time is one of those.
I would really, really, really love for somebody to post up a really groovy picture of an ancestor, relative, or yourself from the 70s. You know, the bell bottoms, the flowery shirts. I would love to see something like that. A lot of times we get lost in like the Clapper years or the 1800s, you know. So that then we're celebrating our ancestors in August, and the profile makeover is memories from dear Vicki. And I saw Vicki in the chat. Hi, Vicki. And guys, we would love for you guys to take a almost completely blank, empty profile and make it into something. And if you're using your ancestors, add a little memory in the memory section as well. The 52 ancestors, and Chris Fariolo is in the chat every Wednesday, I believe it is. He posts a list of blogs. If you want to blog, reach out to Chris and he can help you. If you're already blogging, reach out to Chris and he can promote you. So that will be.
There'll be another segment for Behind the Branches as well.
And that will round up the roundup for the week, right?
All right. Yeah.
Did I miss anything as Greg besides the singing, the music, the math?
No.
Just to answer Amanda's question, Amanda wanted to know about photos or makeovers this week. We'll be back with those segments next week. So.
We need you guys to put some really cool ones up there. So do some photos, post some photos, do some makeovers, and we'll show them off.
Yeah. Thanks again, David, for attending today and talking to us and sharing. And I'll be in touch so that we can talk about something else that you're working on.
Okay.
At some future date. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. Well, everybody, enjoy your weekend. And Greg will be back next week. So thanks for letting me. No problem. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us. Bye.